Welcome, this time for real, to the State of Site Reliability Engineering. Before we start, quick move. I had, of course, originally planned the real launch, but we'll know what happened then.
Launch trajectory countdown net. Pad is clear. Go for launch.
10, 9, 8, 7.
Let's
6,
go, let's go, let's go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition, liftoff.
Separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Dragon, separation confirmed.
So that was the plan for yesterday. Now it's gonna happen Saturday. But I was fortunate enough to experience a rocket launch once in my life. I flew out to Florida with a buddy of mine, and we camped at Jetty Park, which is it's basically across the water from Cape Canaveral. And at 3 a.m. in the morning, we went out to the pier, and there were lots of other people there, lots of excitement. And we were watching the live stream, and as the countdown was still rolling down, suddenly, boom! The entire horizon lit up with fire, and it was like, whoa. I was genuinely afraid that the rocket had exploded, but then we saw a tiny candle rising in the night, and it went up, and we were like, whoa, that's cool. But then the wind came, and it was like, and you could feel it all through your body, and we were 25 kilometers away from the rocket. It was intense, and adrenaline surging everywhere. I was like, whoa. And then imagine being on top of that freaking rocket. What? You want your system to be reliable then. So let's talk about reliability. All right. Quick note about me. This is me and my son that was born last September. And when I came back from parental leave, I decided that the thing I wanted to do in 2020 at Bol.com is set up an SRE team, because I genuinely believe that this is the best way to go forward at innovation at IT at Bol.com. So what is SRE? If you want the basics, that's not what this talk is about. You can watch my talk from last year, or I'll link some good resources at the end. But in a nutshell, SRE is what happens if you let a software engineer design an operations function, but that only speaks to the automation and the data-driven part of it. More critically, I think it's about aligning the traditionally opposite incentives of stability, that was the goal of operations, and rapid innovation, that's the goal of development. So what SRE does is it realigns these different incentives into a single goal of optimizing user happiness. So a short history of how those ideas have been adopted at Bol.com. Like in 2016, somewhere, Google published their first books, and they went public with this way of working that they had been developing since the early 2000s. And around that same time, we at Bol.com switched to a more DevOps way of working through the Man on the Moon project. And as we brought development and operations closer together, there was also a desire to have people with functional knowledge available for the operations teams outside of office hours as well. And that's how the software engineers on duty group was formed. And also in 2017, some SRT people visited SRE Con, and then the SODs took up 24/7 first line 24/7 support for cloud services, and SRT started to adopt some of these practices, and then web shop started to adopt these practices, and there was this full-on pilot about doing SRE at retail and shopping. And we turned the learnings from this pilot into a plan, and that all led up to this dedicated SRE team that we have now that is focusing on a content space. So who are in this SRE team? There's Ruud Straver, who's managing it. There's Louis Novais, Rob Klein-Gunwijk, and myself. We are engineers, site reliability engineers in this team. And what we had planned to do for H1 was focus on evangelization, take ownership of a cross-team user journey, and of the reliability of a cross-team user journey, and improve the way we do out-of-office support in the cloud. And that's where the software engineers on duty, the SODs, come in. So what did we achieve? In the evangelization space, we mostly delivered documentation, and that's the kind of documentation. It's like a production readiness guide. Is a really good guide for making sure you properly deliver the reliability of a service at bol.com. With how-to for defining user journeys that you can use for SLIs and SLOs, and we've made great steps in defining the software engineer on duty process. The next step for evangelization is we want more documentation and how-tos. We want to up our game in doing outreach about what we're trying to achieve with SRE. This presentation is one of those. And we're working on a reliability academy to roll out via Spaces, via StudyBall. So in the user journey, we decided to focus on the content space, and we worked with those teams, and they, when we started, they really made this awesome overview of how all the different services and components in that space work together to enable the user journey. So we analyzed this user journey, and we brought in some outside help, and when we looked at all the different moving pieces, and we came up with like this huge 16-page document, and we said, oh, we need 45 SLOs. And we were already kind of hesitant at this point, and then David came in and was like, that's not really a simple workable system, like make it simpler. So we're like, oh, right, yeah, okay. So we abstracted some things, and we chose 5 SLIs to focus on first. And these are the SLIs that we think will give us the most relevant insights in this user journey of where we can make the right reliability improvements. And that's really where we're at right now. So next steps are defining SLOs for these SLIs, and creating proper error budget policies to embed these SLOs and SLIs into the way of working, and then investigating whether these SLIs do indeed correlate properly with user happiness. So for the outside of office hour support space, traditionally the software engine which we're supporting from the SRE team. So traditionally the software engineer on duty team was created for the fulfillment space, which later broke up into logistics and retail. And now we went ahead and turned that into, scaled that up. So there's 3 SOD teams now, one for logistics and retailer one for the safe space, selling, assortment, fintech, and one for shopping and marketing. And that also means that instead of 9 SODs, we now have 24 SODs in these 3 different spaces. What are the next steps here? We need to onboard a lot more services, because we do a production readiness review with each cloud service that we support from SOD, so that we can be really confident in actually providing the right support that service needs. We need to set up an extra team for the customer service space and the BV and the security. And we have like a big backlog of services that we know need out-of-office support, but we're pretty sure that there's also a pretty big backlog of services that we don't know need out-of-office support, but do actually need them. So this is also a call to help, call for help in that aspect. If you have a cloud service and you need out-of-office support and you don't have it yet, come talk to SRE or SOD from your space. So lots of cool things that we did in H1, and we're doing lots more, but how is this actually relevant to you? Well, at SRE, we genuinely believe that these principles championed by SRE of realigning operations and development to optimize user happiness are the best way to innovate reliably in the fastest way, because the knife cuts on both sides. If you have proper insights on your reliability, you can both go slower when you have to, but you can also go faster. And that data-driven way of optimizing your reliable innovation process to optimize user happiness, we really believe is the best way for Bol.com to innovate. So we really see ourselves as a center for reliability excellence that is here to help all of you get that balance between reliability and innovation right. Right, so hello? There we go. What can you do? A really good step for anyone is to educate yourself about these SRE principles and start using them. You really don't have to go like full in to get the benefit. If you just check out some our documentation, for example, or just come talk to us, then you can already get these benefits really quickly. There's also great resources from Google to learn about what SRE, how you can start with SRE. And there's, if you want to go deeper into it, there's a pretty good Coursera course. And it's also when you're setting up a new service, it's really valuable to involve both the SODs and the SREs early, because the sooner you start thinking about getting the amount of reliability right, the easier it is to bake them into the design of your service. And if you do that, then getting, for example, outside of office support later when you actually want to go live will be much easier. And as I mentioned, come talk to us. We're all really friendly, and we really believe in these principles, and everyone is welcome to just hit us up for like a virtual, these days, cup of coffee, or just ask a question in the site reliability engineering chat room, and maybe we can work out together what the most sensible next steps are for you, for your service, for you personally, or for your team. So, well, it looks like I have 40 seconds for questions. I don't think that's, as predicted, enough to really get into something, but I will go into the questions that have been asked. And once again, don't hesitate to reach out, and enjoy Spaces Summit.